John, we've got Trump Pinocchio tonight. Perhaps Trump was lying to us about vaccines. How are you?
I'm doing well, Jason. You're looking
You
good
are,
as ever.
looks like your face is bald.
Oh yeah, I decided to shave.
Look younger.
Yeah, so I have a face. Yeah, well, I think maybe I appeared on camera shaved once before,
I
but
think that's right, actually.
yeah, the truth is I only grew the beard and all that for this incognito stuff. So, and 6 years in of having that beard, I just
Yeah,
decided to shave it. So, but that's
I
not
hear you.
tonight's story. So
No.
tonight's story, tonight's story is a little bit different. So tonight's story is interesting because it seems there's a possibility that Donald Trump may not be telling the whole story. And it's not just the vaccines. It seems that, and that's kind of why I wanted to broach the subject, because a lot of people who are supportive of Donald Trump have said, I really like the guy, whatever, or I don't like the guy, but I like him as president, or I don't like his interior decorating taste, but I like him as president. Whatever it is, right? The gold toilets and all the Louis the 15th furniture stuff. But he got a lot done as a president. But people have this issue with him of the vaccines because he continues to
Right.
say, if it wasn't for me and it wasn't for these vaccines, bazillions of people would have died.
Yeah.
And he hasn't backed off.
Yeah.
And that's always seemed, I think, weird to a lot of people who have been supportive of Trump, is why didn't he kind of realize there was this vaccine issue and get on board with that? And so that has been sort of a bone of contention or a piece of cognitive dissonance for even Trump supporters, is why is he continue to say positive things about these vaccines if in fact his supporters feel otherwise? Let's leave it at that.
Yeah.
So the question is, has he been completely honest with his supporters, with the American public, with the world? And because our investigation began a long time ago, we're going to look at not just the issue with the vaccines, we're going to look at the Las Vegas shooting. We're going to look at the deployment of field hospitals. We're going to look at, a whole bunch of things that have happened over the course of his presidency where he may not have been fully open with the American people and with the world. Now, whether or not there's a justification for that or not is sort of the second part of the story, right? So the first thing is, well, what happened, right? So if we can identify what happened, then, well, did he lie about that? And then the question is, well, if he did, why was he lying? Do presidents get to tell us everything they want to tell us? I don't know. So we're going to explore that. Now, when we look at the thumbnail, there's some really amazing stuff happening in this thumbnail. It's one of my favorites. You've
Is it?
got oh, dude, this is awesome. This is great. I don't know if people see the subtleties in this thumbnail, but first of all, you've got this, the much more sophisticated Pinocchio, which is like didn't they just make a film called Pinocchio?
Benicio del Toro did a super duper animated, like puppet replacement, super fancy Pinocchio. Yes. With the
Yeah,
nose like
yeah.
that, like a
Right.
stick.
And so that's why I like it, because it
Yeah.
reminds me of that. But I don't think people are going to see movies anymore. So although he made that movie, it might be fascinating. I don't know if anybody actually saw it,
Yeah, I didn't
but
see it.
yeah, great Pinocchio nose. And then the photos that you have in the background, you got Dr. Fauci at the birthday party. You've got the chicken. I mean, this is just one of the greatest thumbnails I think I've ever seen. So this is spectacular. I'm gonna have to print this one out and have a frame. So, but before we get into this content, I need to apologize to the audience about last week and last week's show. We'll tell everybody where to go for the patron stuff once we get into the content, because we're not there yet. Last week's show, we were going to talk about the Valentine's Day massacre, and I made a mistake. So if you show everybody, this was what we were trying to do last week. And the error that I made, as we were talking about We were going to talk about the Valentine's Day Massacre and how it drove the National Firearms Act. Because the National Firearms Act is where they identify machine guns and silencers and short-barreled rifles and sawed-off shotguns and all this stuff. And we were going to look at that. And as we were going through the show, we were showing a couple photos. You can go one or two slides. Go show them another slide or two here in the deck, because I've got a lot of slides we got to go through. So, for example, this is a kid's rifle. Now, we're allowed to show you a photo of this rifle, and Jason and I are allowed to go out into the desert and go shoot, film it, and then show you that video on YouTube. What we are not allowed to do is I'm not allowed to pick up a gun and hold it on camera during a live stream.
It's so
That's
specific.
not allowed. But I didn't know that. And
yeah, I didn't know that either.
Again, I want to tip my hat to the guys at YouTube. It's a reasonable rule. Having firearms on a live stream.
I think as long as you don't shoot somebody with it, they should have left our video alone.
They've got
if we had pre-recorded it and
uploaded
uploaded it, it would still be there. You just should be not allowed to shoot anybody.
No, they do a pre-check. They wouldn't let it publish if it had a bang and a blood. They wouldn't.
What I'm just saying,
I understand the rule. What I'm saying is I get it. I understand it. And the fact that they didn't give me a strike, I'm grateful. They took the video down, but they. Oh, anyway, I'm saying thank you guys.
By the way, people can still see that last week's video on Odyssey. You know, it's a great place to go to see stuff that gets banned off of the different channels. You got to tap on the content tab up here, and that allows you to get to all the stuff. You can search right here. Oh yeah, I reloaded the video of us in the desert in Vegas. It's now part of the Crowdsource The Truth legacy. Most of that stuff is free, but because that one was a sponsor exclusive, it's on there. So people can watch the whole thing. And then also here's last week's show. People can watch for free.
There you go. All right, so we got cut off in the midst of the show because I held up a firearm on camera, and you're not allowed to do that. And then I did something even worse that YouTube also doesn't allow.
Oh yeah, assembling it, right?
I started what they call assembling, which is I started to screw the silencer onto a pistol. So that was a double whammy. They hit the red button. I understand, and again, I appreciate that they didn't give us a strike. They just threw us out of the game. Said get out, and that was it. All right, so let's forge ahead. We'll get it. We'll come back to this National Firearms
That's crazy.
Act.
What is this one?
So the reason this is interesting stuff is because the rules were written back in the 1930s after Al Capone and the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
What is all this? To balance it as you shoot it so it doesn't recoil?
Well, all right, so real quick, what you see here, that's considered a pistol, and the thing that's folded is a shoulder stock.
Oh, right. Yes, now I remember.
That turns this into something called a short-barreled rifle. Right. You have to pay a $200 tax to put that shoulder stock on there, and the shoulder stock itself is $250. So you got to pay $250 for the shoulder stock, then you got to pay a $200 tax to the government, and until you get the stamp back, you can't put that on the gun. Okay, so you have to wait, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 months or whatever. Now, go to the next slide. So that's a pistol with a short barrel rifle. All right, so here's what we're going to get into. We're going to be exploring what are lies of omission. Lies of omission are where people are deliberately withholding information that is really pertinent. Okay, so they're not saying something that is a blatant lie, right? So they're not pointing at the cat
withholding
and telling
a
you that that's a
material
bear.
fact.
Exactly. And it says right here, a lie of omission is a lie in which someone deliberately withholds pertinent details about something in order to skew someone else's idea of the truth or engender a misconception. Although a lie of omission is not technically a lie because it contains no false information, it's still referred to as one colloquially because it is deliberately misleading. So, for example, if Dr. Fauci knew that there weren't 10 people dead in Hong Kong, that there weren't 10 people dead in Shanghai, that there weren't 10 people dead in Beijing, that there was nobody dead in Vietnam, and there's nobody dead in Laos, and he's still carrying on. That's kind of a lie of omission. It's like, well, dude, that's kind of relevant information here, bro. How do you not share that part of the story? Now, we're going to be exploring these lies of omission, not just with Dr. Fauci at the birthday party, but with the former president, because there's certain things that people are willing to accept and move on from and say, yeah, well, okay, whatever. But he did this, he did that. And I think that for many people, the Las Vegas shooting represented that. In other words, if in fact my thesis is correct, and if in fact, hypothetically, it was an assassination attempt on MBS, and he had to keep it a secret because he promised MBS, whatever. Some people, I think, are like, if that's the story, okay, I can forgive him for covering that up. Now, I'm a little bit old-fashioned, and I really don't like being lied to. Really don't like it. And when something is this big, it really aggravates me.
Yeah.
And so the Las Vegas shooting is like, man, you kind of stepped over the line. I understood it in the first 6 weeks. But when we got to the night of the long sword and he had them locked up, tell everybody, Mansour bin Mukran, he's dead. He's dead. The guys who, and Jamal Khashoggi, he's sliced up into sandwiches.
Julian.
Okay. Oh man. Okay. I turned him into stew. Okay. So
it's like an onion slurry at McDonald's.
But they haven't told people this, right? So the fact is that the people responsible did in fact have to face justice at the hand of MBS. So the fact that all this stuff is covered up, I believe, hypothetically, now you get to the next aspect. So let's hop through a couple of these slides before we go to the patron part. When we go to the patron part, I've got a whole bunch of videos that we're going to be sharing with our patrons. A lot of people know, a lot of people don't know that Jason is an NYU Film School graduate, worked on Spider-Man 3D. He's one of the 3D experts in the world. So sitting down with Jason and going through footage of stuff, it's like in the actor's studio. It's like we're doing the director's commentary. We're watching footage. I think we got 10 different clips teed up tonight. What you see here, this image, is this the first one that we just had? The image you have here?
But what, you have...
Yeah. Next, yeah. All right, so this image is probably, I don't know if it's going to be easy for people to see, but this is an image of muzzle flash coming from a helicopter at the Las Vegas shooting. Now, the question is, well, where the hell is that? Where is the muzzle flash coming from the helicopter? It's just to the left of the Luxor. You got it, and that's it. And so this is the type of work I was doing back in 2017. Before I met Jason, I was looking for single pixels. A single pixel of light in a moving frame, and document.
You found them,
right? So
yeah,
right. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see another one. So these are helicopter, again, very difficult to see in the beam of light of the Luxor, hiding behind the beam. And when you zoom in the center of that red circle, you're going to see one tiny little thing of light.
Do you remember the movie High Anxiety, where he gets accused of murder at the end and he's in the hotel and it's some glass elevator and somebody snaps a picture and he's like, I'm the dot, enlarge the dot.
There you go. Yeah, in fact, it's a perfect reference. So here you go. So that dot is muzzle flash coming from a rifle on a helicopter. That's not navigation lights.
Yeah.
We don't see, there's nothing blinking here.
But there's also no radar. Didn't you triangulate these helicopters at some point and determine they had no transponders and everything?
Yeah. They're not, these don't appear on the flight radar feed at all, ever. They never appear. So the documented evidence here shows us what happened. It's not a theory. These aren't seagulls wearing a headband with a light on them, right? I mean, right? Seagulls don't shop at REI, right? They don't have those, right? So
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Jeez.
yeah, man. So go to the next slide. So Trump goes out there, he flies out there with Melania. And in fact, you know what? Let's listen to the first clip I have teed up. It's
No, I don't
Donald
like
Trump.
doing it on YouTube.
Donald Trump? No, can't do Donald Trump? Okay. All right.
Everybody's all
Go
over
back
us.
up. Go back up. That is the first shot in Vegas. So that is Jason Aldean performing.
Wow. Somebody backstage or something? Oh, it's like theater in the round, or what's going on?
There's like a catwalk. So the catwalk goes out into the audience.
Yeah.
So the people who are all the way up front now are behind him. He walks out on that catwalk, and he's now probably 20 rows into the audience. So that is the first shot. And that was taken, a lot of people think it's 10:05, and it's 10:04:42 p.m., something like that. So it's before 10:05. It's at 10:04:42 seconds, and that's the first shot. That's it. And I hear it.
Wait a minute now.
You hear it, you see it.
Jittery Hobo is saying they turned off your live stream on YouTube. Is that right? Why? What did we do now?
Why? I don't know.
Why would they do that? Let me just check that.
Sure, I'll get an email now.
Sorry to delay the show there, but we do have to keep all of this social engineering activity monitored. Yeah, there's no live video going there right now on the Johnny Hoover. What happened?
I don't know. It was queued up. It was teed up.
Yeah, the social engineers are annoyed with us. Maybe they're trying to do something.
Well, and I understand why. I mean, you look at where we're going with the stories, and who's been willing to.
You got to get on Odyssey.
I am on Odyssey. I'm on Odyssey.
How come we don't do the? Oh, but you right.
Yeah, but all my videos could go to Odyssey, and I think all my live streams end up on.
How
Odyssey,
do people find you on Odyssey, Johnny Hoover?
I am John Cullen, I think.
Okay. Odyssey, there you go. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, people should start using Odyssey more. It works great. Oh yeah, look there, all your videos are there. Well, except for the ones that get kicked off. Anyway, sorry, continue, John. Sorry about that. I don't know, everybody. We've got all this inconsistent performance from YouTube.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. And I was saying nice things about it. I was thanking them for not giving me a strike, and they kicked us off. That's nice. All right, so let's go back to the deck, and we'll forge ahead one or two more slides, and we'll figure out what's going on there.
Back live?
We are?
I don't know. Let's just keep going with the show.
I'm not worried. Yeah, I'm not worried.
Stuff later.
Yeah, I can't. There's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
All right, so this is all sort of the Las Vegas shooting aspect, which is Donald Trump did not come clean on what happened in Las Vegas. And we know full well he knows exactly what happened in Las Vegas. So the fact that he didn't come clean, we've got a couple videos of him talking about it as he's leaving for Las Vegas. He and Melania fly out there right after he meets with Prayut Chan-o-cha. They fly out there or whatever. So we're gonna take a look at that. Next slide takes us, somewhere else. Next thing, right? So his lies of omission. We'll look at those videos when we get to the patron-only part of the show. Next slide is going to take us into the next thing, which is as he takes office in 2017, after winning the election in 2016, right? They don't think he's going to win. He wins. They're doing all the spying stuff and all that Michael Flynn stuff is going on. He comes into office, and there's a pandemic underway in China already, and it's been going on for 4 years. So the last 4 years of the Obama administration, Fauci's been working on this thing. They all have. Amy's been doing a tremendous amount of research.
I know.
And it's like, the amount of documented work on this avian influenza.
Oh, yeah. It's amazing that she's finding. Has she been this active always, or is this like new?
Well, she was actively pursuing
But this
all
is like
kinds of
an
different things.
explosion now. Maybe it's just that I've been looking at her more, so it's giving me more of her stuff. But yeah, I mean, every day she's got like 5 different articles about.
Again, it's once you hit the mother lode, once you realize we're on the vein of gold, right? Once you hit it, you get this burst of energy. It's like when you hit the Hillary step at Everest, right? You get to the Hillary step. That's it. It's like you get a burst of energy and you get to the top. I think both of us feel that way. And she lost her dad. So for her, it's very personal. And as a nurse who's bedside, she's watched people die, man. I mean, this is heavy, heavy stuff. And so when you get close to figuring out what it is, again, you end up in a certain mode that's kind of hard to describe. It's a bit manic. You're on it, and you just don't understand why other people aren't figuring it out. And this goes back to the stuff that we've been covering in Web of Deception, which is it appears that a tremendous number of the online personalities, whether they are doctors or PhDs or whatever, are captured assets that are, as you say, social engineers, which before I met you, I never even heard of this term.
Yeah.
I never heard of a social engineer before I met you.
I never heard of it before I started doing Crowdsource the Truth. It's amazing.
It's so when you start, and so now what is happening is we are now driving this new level of the narrative about the avian influenza. And the lack of intellectual curiosity, right? Silence is complicity. The chickens are dead. That's not a theory. We've got 54 million dead chickens, right? Europe had their worst avian. I mean, that part's not a theory. So the fact that there's no intellectual curiosity about that, it was the number one comorbidity, and it disappeared, and it killed all the chickens, but let's talk more about raccoon dogs. That seems to be a problem. Now, if we go back to Kayleigh McEnany, the issue there is she's got crimson contagion in her hands, not COVID, not Event 201. Crimson contagion, one in each hand, by the way. One in each hand. Now, in her left hand, on the right side of the screen, is the document from the ASPR. That's Bob Cadlick. But Rand Paul says he doesn't know who Bob Cadlick is. How the hell do you not know who Bob Cadlick is? Bob Cadlick is running Crimson Contagion.
Yeah,
and
Rand
you're
Paul
a senator
drives a
and you
Mercedes. No time for this Cadillac.
Exactly. And you don't, but Rand Paul doesn't know who he is. Okay, so I'm not buying that
who is
either. The patrons are gonna see, we got videos of Bob Cadlick talking to the Senate. But Rand Paul says, I don't know who he is. I didn't know who he was. Oh. He's addressing the Senate. He runs Crimson Contagion. He is the guy in charge of pandemics for the country. But Rand Paul didn't know who he was. So we're going to look at that because Rand Paul's lying. This is Kayleigh McEnany holding Pandemic Crisis Action Plan version 2.0. This is long before COVID, guys. This is chickens. Remember eggs? Eggs go to $5, $6, $8 a dozen. If you're Jason and you shop at Whole Foods, $19 a dozen for eggs.
$10.
$12, $10 a dozen. $10 a dozen.
Zach M says, what about Disease X, John? We only have a minute left.
Disease X is in her hands. It's been here. And the issue is we don't really have immunity to it because it's this H7. Nobody grew up with H7. Nobody had that as a kid. So none of us have any kind of immunity to it. So it's kind of ruthless. So what we're looking at is this is something that Trump was dealing with from the beginning. He didn't say anything. This was top secret. This was hush hush. Operation Crimson Contagion is a real live exercise about a virus in China, H7N9, killing all the chickens. Guess what? All the chickens in China are dead, or a quarter of them are. A quarter of the egg-laying chickens are. As in Australia, as in Japan, as in Europe, as in the United States. 1/4 of the egg-laying chickens on Earth just died, and Donald Trump didn't say anything. All right. Then he builds the field hospitals, puts them up for 10 days and puts them away, doesn't say anything. How many secrets is this guy keeping?
Well, but I mean, isn't it true that if you're the president and the sort of, move forward action plan is this is what we're going to do, and we decide that there's like various top secret aspects of it, you just sort of have to, there's the story and you have to tell it. Otherwise there's chaos. He can't just say, hey, I have a secret, nanny poo poo.
Yep. It came up in Tucker's interview with Putin, and then Tucker did a post interview with Glenn Beck, and it came up in that conversation as well. And talking about, is the president really in charge, or does the president have to take,
right.
They got him, Mr. President, we can't tell everybody this.
I think the answer is no.
Thing from
hey, but listen, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we gotta stop here and head on over to the sponsor exclusive segment. We're going to get into all these questions. People want to know about disease X. People want to know why Rand Paul is lying, why Trump is lying. We'll talk about all of that. Join us on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. We'll be right back, everybody. Thanks so much to everybody who supports the show, and join us for this sponsor exclusive